Hey, this is Ariel, and you're listening to the Cyber PR Music Podcast, Dispatches for the New Music Business. Today's guest is someone who is a newer friend in my world, and someone who the more I study him and poke around and ask friends about him and mutual clients, the more I find no one will say anything bad about this human. The other thing I'm finding out is Michael is someone who's making a tremendous difference in the world of musicians trying to navigate today's unbelievably ridiculous new music business, as I like to call it. I am so happy you're here. If you would do us the honor and do your own intro, my friend.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to do my best to give you the Cliff Notes versions. I used to tour full-time with my band Paradise Fears out of high school. And when we started out, felt really proud of our music, which didn't know the best way to actually promote it and to actually grow an audience. And I remember the first tour we ever did, it was like the bartender in the back of the room, and we were living in our vans and sleeping in Walmart parking lots. Basically made every mistake in the book as we were pursuing our career with our band, and ended up figuring some stuff out and got to a point that we had about 24 million streams on Spotify, and we toured worldwide, and we got to connect with a lot of our favorite bands, and it was awesome. And I met my wife, and then a few years ago when I was thinking about starting my family, I was gone for most of the year with my band, and I was basically looking for a way to provide for them without traveling as much. So started this business of our musician and started sharing some of the lessons that we had learned with the band. And that has really snowballed into an amazing passion where I get to connect with a lot of artists and share something that I see as almost like a sacred ability for music. Musicians really have this ability to touch people around the world and make a massive impact. And I know for me, when we were playing shows, we'd have people come up after the shows and like show tattoos of our lyrics over scars where they used to hurt themselves and tell stories about how our music really helped them. And it's amazing the kind of impact that musicians can make with their music. And nowadays, it's even crazier how you can reach people across the entire world. But what I found is like a lot of people are just struggling with knowing the best way to do that and how to actually grow your audience in a way that isn't just getting like 10,000 fake bots from overseas, but it's like a legitimate audience. And especially in the world of coronavirus and not being able to play live, like how do you actually build an audience? How do you make it sustainable? Like how do you actually make enough income in order to support yourself? So it's not just like a black hole of money you're throwing into your music without seeing anything out. So that's really been like my life for the last couple of years.
So I have so many things I want to talk to you about, but the first thing, I think it takes a lot of artists time to understand the value of team, of having someone. I find, and this probably was not the case in your band, just judging by watching old videos of you guys and seeing the vibe, but 9 times out of 10, when I work with bands, I find that there's one person that does all of the work, especially in the fields of marketing, promotion, keeping the digital world alive. And the other bandmates sometimes don't pull their weight. And then I think it can become really challenging when you don't feel like you have a team pulling for you. And I know that part of what you're offering in your lineup is helping artists to feel supported, not only by you, but also by fellow musicians. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about how you set that up and how you encourage everyone to not feel so alone.
Yeah, that is a big challenge, I think, for a lot of artists, especially nowadays with the coronavirus. Obviously, the in-person live shows, that's not really happening. And so it's easier to feel isolated and feel alone. In terms of the value of a community, I mean, it's so important to have people who understand where you're at and are going to support you and believe in you when not everyone gives you that kind of support. I know for me early on, it hurt in some ways, feeling like maybe I didn't have that support from everyone. But also the reason that it hurt was because it resonated with something inside of me that was like, am I really good enough? Like, can I really do this? And I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with early on is just knowing that it's possible, having the belief in themselves. Yeah. And so it's super important to surround yourself with people who believe in you and to put yourself around people who've done the thing that you want to do, because that constantly reinforces like, oh yeah, this is possible. Other people are doing it. Like I can do this if I put in the work.
Yeah. Not only just feeling supported make an enormous difference when you endeavor into any type of marketing and growing your community. But the other thing that I'm really committed to, and I talk about a lot, and I know you do too, is mindset. I find so many artists, it's never really about like, how do I use Facebook or TikTok or Twitter? Or, I mean, 13-year-olds figure that out all the time, right? It's not rocket science. But where I notice a problem is it's not the technical piece of the marketing, it's the mindset. And it's that, what if they don't like me? What if I say something stupid? And judging other artists who do a crap job at it and going, oh boy, I don't want to look like them because then that'll be horrible. And I find that once you can get in the right mindset, and you just said it, having faith and being surrounded by people, I think is a huge part of it. But if you don't work on your inner game for all those hours when you're not on stage, when you're doing the perfect moment thing, I think you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And it's not a big secret that most of the highest level of athletes, like Olympic athletes and highest performing people in the world, have some sort of like visualization practice where every single day, like they have this space where they envision who they want to become, and they're really like, they have a lot of clarity about what that vision is. And I know for me personally, I have, my morning formula I just kind of go through, and it just outlines my goals for who I want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, and like long term. And then it has a bunch of like pictures and things from, the experiences I've had, or from the artists that I'm working with that are happy and getting results. And that basically pumps me up, and I'm thinking like, yeah, like I'm making that vision happen. And when I don't do that inner work in the morning, I feel it. Sometimes it's not always immediate. I mean, a lot of times it is. Like that day, I just feel a little off. But like if it's been like 3 days or something, and I'm not doing my morning routine where I'm, meditating and working out and drinking my green shake and doing my morning formula, I'll feel off kilter, and like my emotions feel like a little bit depression, just like not very good. And yeah, I think that's a really foundational element, is your own mindset, and that impacts everything that you do. It's like the classic analogy of building a house and making sure that's built on solid ground, as opposed to building it on sand. Even if you build up this big structure that's built on sand, then it's going to come crumbling down at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now to the topic. The topic today is how to build a massive following on socials. That is a huge topic. Go ahead, tell us. No, I'm kidding. Let's start at the base level of where to begin. Let's, of course, assume we know how to use all the channels and we're there.
Right. I think that I kind of counterintuitively compared to what like a lot of people would teach around social media marketing. In some ways, it's a strength of mine. In some ways, it's a weakness. I would say like the weakness of mine is that I'm not the kind of person who I like to build out a weekly content calendar and post consistently 3 times a day on all my platforms. That's just not something I've found like a strength in, and it's not something that I've gotten really good at and like seen great results at myself. The pro of the way that I look at it too is just that you can create a lot of leverage with an organic strategy. A lot of it relies on there being an existing audience, and either you're tapping into someone else's existing audience, or you already have an existing audience yourself. And so when you post stuff organically, it's like, well, people are kind of listening to it. You could have some sort of viral strategy where it's like you really try to plug in with something that's popular right now so that you can get traffic that way. But what we focused on for the most part in terms of the artists we're working with, growing from scratch, has been building a automated, like a paid traffic strategy. And what that looks like is I recommend starting with finding your top 1 to 3 pieces of content that you have right now, what we call your tip of the iceberg content, the best quality, most polished version of you that you have right now, whether it's a music video or it's some songs. And we'll take those and we say, okay, these are the things that we want someone who's completely new, who's never heard of you before. These are the very first things we want to put in front of them so that you can start growing your audience. But basically, what we do is using Facebook and Instagram Ads Manager. It's no secret now that both Facebook and Instagram overnight decided to change the way their algorithm works. And so now it's almost hardly even worth it to post organically on Facebook without any paid traffic. The same thing seems like it's sort of happening with Instagram now. They want us to pay them money in order to reach people, which isn't great. If you already built an audience on their platform, it's like bummer. But that also is another case for you want to build your own contact list, right? Mm-hmm. Like you want to make sure that you're building your own email list and your text message list from the traffic you're getting from your social media platforms. So you don't rely on those as much. More and more, Instagram is kind of going the same route where it's like pay to reach those people, which is only an issue if we don't know how to leverage paid traffic.
I find a lot of times artists just complain a lot about like, well, I spent all this money on ads on Facebook. Like, for example, not that that's a thing anymore, but like I tried to promote a show and no one came and I spent hundreds of dollars. And I think unless you really know what you are doing, it is very, very challenging to get a result on just a paid spend. So without giving away the farm, obviously, is there a way that you would coach people that already feel a bit discouraged about, okay, spent a lot of money, I didn't get any returns, or I boosted a bunch of posts and I got like another 100 or 200 or 300 or 1,000 likes, but it didn't translate at all. And this is like a major complaint that we hear all the time, that the long-term effect is basically just you're like throwing money down the deep hole of Facebook with no return.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see all the time. When artists spends a bunch of money on boosting their posts or spends a bunch of money on ad campaigns without having a back end, really building out a funnel or a system. The analogy that I use for it is that's kind of like when you're spending money on a campaign, it's like the exposure is like a rainstorm. And eventually you stop paying money as the rain stops happening. But what most people is doing is they're kind of just like holding out their hands when it rains and being like, hey, like people are like, this is kind of cool. Right. And then after the rain stops, it's like, all right, there's like left holding a handful of water. And most of it just went into the ground. It's sort of wasted. There's no system. And there's also a lot of issues usually in terms of targeting, where it's like just because someone likes a page on Facebook or Instagram doesn't necessarily mean that they're the kind of fan who goes out to shows and buys merchandise and is just like awesome. A lot of times there's like a quality issue. So you need to have some sort of qualification system, which you can do using something called a lookalike audience, which if you Google how to create a lookalike audience on Facebook and Instagram, basically the idea is that if you have a list of at least 100 people that you know are a really high quality fan, for example, people who've purchased something from you, and then you upload that and create a lookalike audience, then you're going to be able to improve your targeting. In our case, what we found is that usually at least like 10 times better efficiency if you're doing a lookalike audience based on someone who's bought something from you compared to just like, did they like this page on Facebook? I've also seen advice where it's like, how to get 10,000 fans in 7 days. And it's like, you just target third world countries and it's like, they're all fake bots. Like,
yeah.
It's like it makes
I'm
your
working
numbers
with
go
an
up.
artist right now that has 120,000 likes on Facebook, which they paid very little money for. And it's a huge problem because now when they post anything, they get like 10 likes. You can smell a rat so fast, and that's a disaster. And unfortunately, there's not much they can do about that unless they want to restart a page, you know. Oops.
Yeah, exactly. And I get it, you know, I get that it's tempting to kind of shortcut and you like have that social proof. But yeah, there's a lot better ways to get the social proof in a legitimate way with like real fans who are actually going to come out to shows and engage and to buy merchandise from you. One of the things is in terms of targeting, like doing the lookalike audiences, making sure that you're targeting the right people. Then in terms of how to make sure you're not just throwing money at the black hole of Facebook without seeing anything back. Basically, you just need to make sure that you have a funnel going on the back end that you can track the metrics. So basically just get a little bit more clear about what are the steps that people take. And at a high level, the number one thing that we're doing right now is messenger campaigns. So what that means is that when someone clicks on the ad, it starts a conversation with them. And then from there, you know, you can connect with them like a human being and ask questions and just get to know them. You can share your music. And then at the end of it, you could either make an offer for them to join your private community. If you have like an email list, a text message list, you could also make an offer for like a CD or something. You could give them a deal or a discount. That's what we found has been working the best right now, to the point where it's like literally for 100% of the artists that we launched this for, the biggest problem that they run into is that in that first week, it's like it starts raining, but then the rain starts to get like higher, like gets over their heads, and they're like starting to like drown in the conversations that are coming in. And as much as they enjoy connecting with new fans, it just becomes overwhelming, and you can't necessarily keep up with everyone that's reaching out. And so it's a good problem to have. It's like, you know, a high quality problem, but it's still a problem. And so after that, the next thing we do is we start to build some automation in terms of the messenger conversations. There's a tool called ManyChat. And we use it with a few different AI plugins that basically allow you to have a conversation with a new fan in an automated way. And that allows you to start to scale it up. And so if I had to give you like one piece of advice to grow, it depends on where you're starting from too. Like, if you have 5,000 or 10,000 dedicated followers or like people that are really engaged, then you could probably get some pretty good leverage by doing what we call hyper networking, which is basically reaching out to people who are complementary to you that have similar music and just connecting with them and doing essentially, here's the meta, guys, right now. Look at what Ariel and I are doing right now is like a form of hyper networking, where it's basically like you connect with people that also have an audience of their own, and you provide value for each other. And I mean, you see this all the time with in the music world with like features and artists collaborating with each other, and that's just like that's a way you can provide massive momentum and grow your audience by like, if you have 10,000 people, you can get like 50,000 people by just finding 7 or 8 people around your size and doing this kind of collaboration with them. So I mean, depending on where you're at, if you have like a good substantial base already, you have a network of people you can reach out to that have an audience, awesome. If you don't, then I think that building an automated funnel with like a messenger campaign is one of the smartest things you can do early on. Even if you don't have the automated stuff yet, then just start out by here's the secret sauce. Here's going to be like the gold nugget that is totally mind blowing. And in fact, it's actually like the simplest thing ever. We've tested $130,000, and this is the thing that's working best right now. Is you holding up your phone and just like recording a 20-second long video and saying, "Hey, what's up? My name's Michael. I play keyboard in a band called Paradise Fears. And I think if you're a fan of Mayday Parade or All Time Low, you might like our music too. If you're interested, click on the send message button below and I'll send you one of our songs." That's it. You launch that and you target. You make a list of 10 artists that have similar music or people that you aspire to, that influence you, and you just send that to those people. Then I guarantee you in the first week, you're going to have more messages than you can keep up with.
Yeah. For those of you who are listening to this and it's freaking you out because it sounds really salesy, I have another way that I like to frame this. And also there's that other moment you're having like, well, I don't have a lot going on social. So if I reach out to someone that has a lot going on social, it's not fair. And what do I have to offer? And I'll shut that little voice up inside of you right now. And I have 2 tips. The first tip is, instead of thinking about this as like networking, which I know a lot of musicians hate that word, think of it as simply shining a light on others. So I like to say it that way because it's almost like you're inviting them to open for you. That's what it's like. You like their stuff, you're sharing. That's it. The other thing, for those of you that are struggling with, okay, well then how do I come up with content? What do I share and what do I ask for? And I don't know. There's an amazing initiative going on right now, which was set up by many phenomenal export offices, music export offices globally, including Iceland, Australia, Scotland, the UK, and it's called Global Music Match. And I took a peek behind the hood last week, and if you are interested in trying to figure out how to collaborate on social media with other artists, follow the hashtag Global Music Match and take a look at what is being created. Because the whole point of it is, now that we don't have live shows to promote, Global Music Match realized that the way that they were promoting their artists was clearly at live showcases, at conferences, and all of a sudden there was none of that. So they started this initiative. I have been dying laughing at some of the hilarious content. I have been impressed by the intellectual content. Musicians are interviewing each other, they're showcasing each other. Anyway, take a look. It will inspire you to really create some great content. It's unbelievable what's going on, and it's really worth taking a look at just to become inspired. Once you do reach out and you collaborate digitally, then you can begin to use some of the things that Michael is talking about, where you can find a lookalike audience for you and this artist and collaborate that way. Or you can begin to dig into their communities and their audiences. So this is a brilliant way of looking at curated content that is some of the most inspiring collaborative content that I've seen in forever and is phenomenal. So do take a look at that. And the other thing that's super cool about Global Music Match is it's a lot of internationals and it's mostly folk artists. Michael, where can I learn more about the Modern Musician program?
You can learn more about Modern Musician if you Google Modern Musician, or if you go to modern-musician.com, you'll be able to find our website and check us out there.
Okay. Another question. What 3 platforms should the musician concentrate on today?
Yeah, really, really good question. A lot of people struggle with knowing where should I focus my time. I hate answers to questions like this, but the answer in a lot of cases is it depends. Like, where does your audience hang out, basically? For example, for a lot of people, like, TikTok's a super trendy thing, and if you are aiming for a demographic of people who are like a lot younger, for the most part, then I think TikTok is a great place to be. If I had to choose 3 platforms to be on right now as a musician, I think what I would recommend is Instagram. Organically, Instagram is still the king. YouTube is like hands down one of the best places for musicians right now for organic stuff. And I'm partial to Facebook for paid traffic and building funnels. Facebook and Instagram are really pretty similar in terms of like the paid traffic stuff. I think that learning how to drive traffic and build funnels is going to benefit you, whether you're generating traffic from organic sources or networking with other people. If you're going to be making it rain, you want to make sure that you have some sort of rain catcher to capture it. And that's really what a funnel does for you. Like, it allows you to capture that in the form of a contact list with emails and phone numbers, so that after it finishes raining, you still have this big rain funnel where you can connect with those people deeper. When you're going to play a show in New York, you reach out to your people that live 40 miles within New York and say, hey, I'm going to play in New York. You guys want to come out? And if you send them a text message that says that, then it's about 1 million times more likely they're going to see that than if you just post organically on like Facebook.
Right. Or even send a newsletter where the average open rate in the entertainment industry is 14%. So you send it to 100 people, that means 14 or 15 are going to open it. You're missing all of those people, not their fault. It's getting filtered. It's going to the promotions folder. They're busy. They didn't see it. And that sucks. Of course, you do have to have a newsletter list. Don't cut that corner. But the truth is 15, 20, 25% is like awesome. So remember, only 1 in 4 people in a good scenario is actually seeing your newsletter. When it comes to creating content specifically for ads on social media. So you did mention chopping up your music video if that is something that you have well produced. I mean, you did just say make a little video and say hello to everyone.
Yeah, so that's like our number one breadwinner right now, is like it's derivative of something I used to talk about called tour hacking, which is like meeting people in lines for shows and introducing yourself. It's basically, it's what we call virtual tour hacking. So it's like the exact same thing, we do it online.
What else would you recommend as far as content?
So, I mean, that's a great one. That one's literally one of my favorites because the threshold is so low to entry. Like, it's literally, all you need is one high quality song. And then all you need to do is just record a quick video on your phone and say, hey, this is me. This is who I am. I think if you're a fan of blank, blank, or blank, you might like us. We're like a baby. If they had the baby, if you're interested, then click on the button below and I'll send you the song. And I like that because it also allows you to have a conversation with the new fans. I think that's like the most important thing that's missing from a lot of artists who are starting out, is like they don't have that conversational, so it's not a whole lot of engagement. So I think that's one, is like having a campaign like that. I think there's a lot of people having some pretty good success in terms of Spotify growth by using Instagram story ads, whereas basically like you create a clip of one of your songs or a music video and you do an Instagram story ad that drives people to your Spotify. And really, you could drive them anywhere that you want. You could drive them to your website or whatever, swipe up to hear more. So I say that could be one that's worth testing out. And also, I'm a big fan of just straight up video view campaigns in general, where you just have the entire music video. Because part of what you can do with that is you can, with the analytics, you can see which of these people are watching 50% and 75% and 95% of the video. So you can really tell who's resonating most with the music. And then based on that, you can create lookalike audiences. You can do what they call retargeting, which basically means that you could send a follow-up message to everyone that had watched 95% of a video. So I'd say if there's like 3 pieces of content I would recommend creating. One is like music videos in general are gonna be hugely powerful. You don't have to have a huge budget to do one. I had a music video with Paradise Fears that cost us like $250 and has 750,000 views on YouTube. So definitely like budget doesn't necessarily have to be huge for it, but having music videos is really valuable, and then chopping those up and using those for the ads is a good idea. In addition to the personal, hey, here's who I am, let's have a conversation.
Amazing. This conversation is part of a much larger conversation. September and October is Ariel Michael month around our offices. We are going to be co-hosting a webinar tomorrow with Michael at 2 p.m. If you are interested in joining that, please pop an email over. It's ariel@cyberpr.com, or feel free to hit me on the DM, and we will make sure that you get a link to register for Michael's webinar, which is going to be all about growing your audience on social media. And of course, we are going to go much deeper. Again, Ariel@cyberpr.com or DM. Michael, any parting words to leave us with?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me on here. I've really enjoyed connecting with you, and we just have a very similar passion, like what drives us. So I appreciate you having me on here. And like Ariel said, tomorrow we're gonna get geeky. So we're actually gonna pull up the funnels, the spreadsheets, the numbers. We're talking about setting up those systems, and because we can like share our screen, we can actually walk through exactly how it works. And by the end of the presentation, you're probably gonna be like, "Holy cow, that's like I'm like Neo in the Matrix, where like you're gonna see the numbers everywhere." It's gonna all make sense. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Totally amazing. Viewers just can't get enough. After Michael's webinar, where can they find you if they need you?
If you want to contact us directly, you can reach out to melanie@modernmusician.me. Or easiest way to find us if you just want to like learn more about stuff that that we do is just to Google Modern Musician.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We'll see you tomorrow.
This podcast is brought to you by our friends at Bandzoogle. Built by musicians for musicians, Bandzoogle is an all-in-one platform that makes it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Enter the code CYBER15 to get your first month absolutely free.